On August the 21st, 1831, enslaved Virginian Turner led a bloody revolt which changed the course of American history. The uprising in Southampton County led to the killing of an estimated 55 white people, resulting in the execution of some 55 black people and the beating of hundreds of others by white mobs. While the rebellion only lasted about 24 hours, it prompted a renewed wave of oppressive legislation prohibiting enslaved people's movements, assembly, and education. At the same time, abolitionists saw an opening for the argument that the system of slavery was unattainable. Lawmakers in Virginia urged over which path to take. A vote to free slaves through gradual emancipation gained support with the state's leaders. It was a legitimate debate, says Patrick Breen, author of The Land Shall Be Burned in Blood, a New History of the Nat Turner Revolt. It was not obvious that it was going to pass. Ultimately, however, Virginia and other southern states opted to keep slavery in place and tighten control of African American lives, including their literacy. In the antebellum South, it estimated that only 10% of enslaved people were literates. For many enslavers, even this rate of 10% was still too high. As Clarence Lusane, a professor of political science at Howard University, notes, there was a glowing belief that any educated enslaved person was a dangerous person. The 1831 revolt confirmed this view, which had been gaining steam for years. Turner was a passionate preacher, guided by spiritual visions. His ability to read the Bible allowed him to find stories of divine support for fighting against injustice. This was explained by Sarah Roth, professor of history at Meredith College and creator of the Nat Turner Project. Enslavers and their clergy controlled the biblical narrative among literate enslaved people, but educated black Americans like Turner saw past this sanitized version which didn't call slavery into question. African American literacy wasn't just problematic to enslavers because of the potential for eliminating biblical readings. Anti-literacy laws were written in response to the rise of abolitionism in the North. Says Breen, one of the most threatening abolitionists of the time was black New Englander David Walker. From 1829 to 1830, he distributed the Appeal, a pamphlet calling for uprising to end slavery. There is no proof that Turner himself read the Appeal and was inspired by it. However, there is a lot of evidence that abolitionist writings directly influenced Caribbean uprisings around this time. He notes, if written, abolitionists agitating was shaping the nature of slave resistance in the islands. American enslavers believed that it could influence enslaved populations stateside. Adding to such fears was William Lloyd Garrison's abolitionist paper, The Liberator, which began publishing on January 1st, 1831. Although it was edited by Garrison, who was described as a radical white abolitionist, Rudgman argues it was largely seen as a black newspaper since most of its readers were African Americans, along with a few radical whites who believed in anti-slavery and anti-racism. Southern enslavers saw this paper as another example of outside agitation spread through the written world. Black Americans' literacy also threatened a major justification of slavery, that black people were less than human, permanently illiterate and dumb. Reason says that gets disproven when African Americans were educated and undermines the logic of the system. States fighting to hold onto slavery began tightening literacy laws in the early 1830s. In April 1831, Virginia declared that any meeting to teach free African Americans to read or write was illegal. New codes also outlawed teaching enslaved people. Other southern states passed similarly strict or even more strict anti-literacy laws around this time. In 1833, an Alabama law asserted that any person or persons who shall attempt to teach any free person of color or slave to spell, to read, or write shall upon conviction thereof indictment be fined a sum not less than $200. That is close to 7,600 in today's money, in dollars. But despite the consequences, many enslaved people continued to learn and read, and numerous enslavers may have supported this. Many enslaved people did sophisticated work including management of operations which required literacy, explains Rujima. Barring black Americans from reading and writing wasn't practical. It wasn't a strategy for anyone, and it was too late. And slavery ideas had already spread largely through the written word. As Roth points out, literacy promotes through and raises consciousness. It helps you to get outside of your own culture, the constraints, and think about things from totally different angles. The view that slavery was wrong and should be ended was reinforced through written texts. Soon after Turner's Rebellion, in 1862, the Emancipation Proclamation declared that all slaves in the states currently engaged in rebellion against the Union shall be then henceforward and forever free. When U.S. Army units began arriving in Virginia in 1861, members of the freed black communities quickly began opening up schools for African Americans, staffed with black teachers as well as white Northerners. Following the end of the Civil War, literacy rates climbed steadily among black Americans, rising from 20% in 1870 to nearly 70% by 1910, according to the National Assessment of Adult Literacy. And that is how literacy became a powerful weapon in the fight to end slavery. What do you think about this video? Please let me know in the comment section, and also please suggest a title or a topic that you would like us to discuss in the next video. My name is Osie The Born Child. I'll be seeing you in another video, but until then, let's meet in the comment section. Love you all. Bye bye for now.